Greetings, everyone. You can see the QR codes with our presentation on the screen. If you want to see it closer than on the screens, please scan it. I'm Roman Pohorilyi, and this is Ruslan Mikula, the co-founder of this project. You probably are familiar with our maps and you use them in your work. Today we're going to speak about the situation on the battlefield, what are the plans of the enemy for the future, and what are our capabilities and possibilities. Greetings, everyone. 19.3% of the Ukraine territory occupied and 6.8% has been deoccupied. A lot of territories which were liberated were recaptured by the enemy again. 100% of Crimea is occupied, 99% of Luhansk Oblast, 78% of Donetsk region, 75% of Zaporizhia, and 72% of Kherson Oblast are under control of the enemy. So the dynamics of the occupation is like this. At this chart, you can see how Ukraine is losing territories from June 2024. So you can see on this chart how in the middle of the year the enemy was exhausted and short of manpower, but at the end of 2024 they gained momentum, and the peak of their offensive fell on November, when another 25% of the territory was lost. At that time, they were at the peak point, and we were on the verge. But luckily, the Defense Forces of Ukraine managed to make a breakthrough, and since November 2024, we observe a kind of downfall in the activities of the enemy. They were suffering from the lack of manpower. They used people with a lack of training and so on. At that period, we've figured out that they increased the payment for contracts, and as of May, they increased their manpower. In September, October, we managed to slow down the enemy, but in next November, they became more active, and in January, the monthly average rates was twice as low as they had previously had. President Trump and many in the administration of the U.S. would like to know these statistics. Previously, the Russians controlled 32% of the Donetsk Oblast. At the time when later they captured another 24% in 2023-2025 until now, for 3 years, the enemy captured 21.8% of this oblast, and 21.5% of the oblast is under Ukraine's control. So if we take the tempo of 2025, the enemy will need another basically 2 more years to capture the entire oblast.
Алло? Сьогодні ми ще також поговоримо про ситуацію безпосередньо, яка
Today we'll also speak about the situation on the front line. If we get to the next slide, we'll see 2 towns, Pokrovsk and Myrnohrad. Probably you've heard about these 2 towns for which the battles are going on. In fact, the Russians planned to capture them even before winter 2025, but they are lagging behind their plans, thanks to Ukrainian Defence Forces. And before they spoke about the 2 years, but in fact it will take even longer, because there is a very heavy fighting for every point, every piece of land. And now we see that the northern outskirts of Pokrovsk and second town are still controlled by the Ukrainian Defence Forces. And Russians, having used more than 100,000 in these regions, still cannot cope with the Ukrainian Defence Forces around these places. Speaking about further developments, when these towns will fall, because sooner or later they will capture them, because the Russians have a huge potential for this, they will move deeper into Donetsk Oblast because they have to capture our logistics, not allow it to get to the next towns in which the general battle for Donetsk Oblast will take place. These are Slovyansk and Kramatorsk. You see red arrows currently, and this is just attempts by Russians to find out about our defense. They're looking for weak points. How could they enter these towns? And the fighting is going on the outskirts of these towns in Konstantinivka and Liman. It's a gateway to Sloviansk-Kramatorsk agglomeration, and those last remaining percentage of Donetsk Oblast, which Russians want to capture, and for which, according to our forecast, they would use not less than 2 years of fighting and lose a colossal amount of their forces and equipment. And then the question is, why should we give up this territory when Russians are losing fighting for this, and we are losing a lot? We can overcome them. The next area is Zaporizhzhia city and Zaporizhzhia Oblast. These are the territories which they illegally included into their constitution, and after Donetsk Oblast, they're going to fight for them. And recently, the Russian Chief of General Staff announced that the next battle will be for Zaporizhzhia, and you see the arrows and some other towns, Stepnohirsk and Katarinivka. They declared last year that they allegedly occupied them, but this shows how Russians are fighting now. What they say simply lies, because according to the Russian General Staff, they're standing there. There is just a little distance to Zaporizhzhia, and they are going to start fighting for that city. But this is not true. Ukrainian Defence Forces actively defend and do not allow them to move forward, but they're bringing about additional resources, strengthening their formations, and in the future we are going to have a big battle for Zaporizhzhia and Zaporizhzhia Oblast. Nearby there is a picture with Hulai Pole. It's an eastern flank of the Zaporizhzhia Oblast, from which they would try to move deeper into our territory in order to join the southern grouping. Then we'll continue about Kharkiv Oblast. It's an oblast which is not included into Russian constitution, and in Kharkiv and also Sumy and Dnipropetrovsk Oblast, these are territories where they are moving in a chaotic manner. When they have opportunity, they make use of our weak points, our problems, and the further, the deeper they get into our territory, the stronger they will have position in negotiations for our territories, because they plan in the future to use Sumy, Dnipropetrovsk and Kharkiv Oblast to use for exchange for Zaporizhzhia Oblast, and Kherson Oblast and Donetsk Oblast, which is still under question mark. What are the major means Russians use for their implementing their plans besides infantry and armor? We may say that 2026 became the robotized war. Over the recent half a year, we used to say that those who will be ahead, who modernizes these drones, and reached optical fiber. And now the question is, the more such means somebody has, he will have the prevalence in the front line. Currently, these drones are used as logistical means, delivery of wounded soldiers. Now, currently, Ukraine is going ahead of Russians in the application of these robotized systems. And if we have enough political will, we'll continue increasing this means of fighting. For this, we need resources. Nearby, you see UA guided bombs, Shahed and Lancet. They use a lot of this means. And now the world faces the huge question how to counter guided bombs, because now it's extremely difficult to counter them. Now it's a challenge for the whole world. Russians are increasing their numbers. They are going to modernize them for them to be able to reach 100 kilometers deeper. You all know about Shaheds. Currently, Russians are ruining our country, using them not only on the front line, they are ruining our energy structure, civilian infrastructure, defense, and use them all over the territory of Ukraine. These are the means which deserve special attention, and we need to find counterbalance to them and increase the production of our own means. And the main recent problems of Russians in the front line, the first problem is huge losses and deficit of personnel. Yes, there are much more Russians than Ukrainians, but they are suffering heavy losses. And this is the demonstration of what Russians pay for capturing our territories. The next weak point of them is that they stopped using armor. We remember that at the beginning of full-scale advancement, they had all these armor columns. Now there is no massive use of armor. They use light motorized equipment like buggies, motorbikes, and other lighter things. That means that for the enemy, deep breakthrough, it's a big problem. And the last, logistics. They planned to fight against NATO, United Kingdoms, United States, fight for their interests, but at the same time, the fifth year of this war, they cannot use normal equipment. They use donkeys, horses, and camels in order to deliver food and munitions. And in the end, I would like to say that it seems that we have lots of problems in our countries. It's very difficult for us. But at the same time, for the fourth year of full-scale invasion, we are standing against this huge country with huge resources. And then at the beginning of winter 22, they moved here using lots of tanks. And now this army has this, and this. Now we have to unite. We need resources, and having this big power will be able to counteract their power and their force. Thank you.